Hey, Michael with X-Force PC. I want to talk about setting up your triple display system with Nvidia Surround. So the first step is to make sure all of the monitors are plugged into the video card and not into the onboard motherboard ports. And typically we label the onboard motherboard ports with a sticker that says "Do not plug monitors here." So again, make sure you have all the monitors plugged into the video card or the graphics card. So when you start your system up, probably all three displays will show up, but not necessarily all three of them will show up. But as you see here, I've got all three of mine up here. Now they're not necessarily arranged correctly. Actually, you notice when I go off the screen this way, my mouse shows up on the far right monitor, so that kind of tells me I need to arrange them. So let's go right into this. You right click on the desktop and you go to the Nvidia control panel. Again, right click on the desktop, Nvidia control panel. And after we're in the Nvidia control panel, the screen that we want to go to is now over here on the, I can try to get my mouse over here. Over here on the left, there's all these different choices. Over on the left side here, you want to click on Configure Surround, PhysX. And you should see right here a representation of the back of your graphics card is what that is. And it's showing you that these three green boxes are the monitors, and you can see which ports they're plugged into. We got one into a DVI, one into a DisplayPort, one into an HDMI. And so that's good. That's what we want to see, is three monitors showing up plugged into our graphics card. If you don't see three green boxes here, you might as well not continue. You need to check your connections. But we do see three green boxes, and so we're going to continue. And obviously all three of the monitors are lit up. We'll check this box that says Configure Display with Surround, or excuse me, Span Displays with Surround. Check the box, and then I'm going to hit Configure. And when I do that, you're going to see that some big numbers show up on all the monitors. Now these big numbers read 3, 2, 1 from left to right. And you want to make sure, hold on just a second here. Yeah, you want to make sure that you've got a 1x3 chosen, excuse me, a 3x1 chosen under topology. No, it's a 1x3, sorry. 1x3 under topology. So usually that gets chosen automatically. That's why it threw me a little bit. So under topology, you want a 1x3. That means one screen high, three screens wide. And then make sure that all three of these boxes are checked down here, meaning we're going to use all three of the monitors. So now, again, we see 3, 2, 1 on the big numbers here and 3, 2, 1 on the little ones. But let's say these were in a different order, like these say 2, 1, 3. Well, what that means is we need to rearrange our monitors to match these big numbers that you see on the screen. So I'm going to put this back to where it says 3, 2, 1, just like the big numbers say. And the purpose of that is so that the computer will know this is the left monitor, this is the middle monitor, this is the right monitor. That's what that exercise is for. Under your resolution, if you're using three 1080p displays, it'll usually say 5760 by 1080. But last thing we need to do is click on the Enable Surround button here. And we do that, all the monitors will go blank, and it'll be setting up the Nvidia Surround so that the computer sees this as one really wide monitor. And that allows X-Plane to write to a single display, it thinks, even though it's writing to or sending information to three displays. Okay, so then we just want to test, move your mouse all the way to the left and all the way to the right, and just make sure your mouse travels across all three screens, which it should, because we've got 3, 2, 1 on the big numbers and 3, 2, 1 on the little numbers. The last thing we want to do, or one of the last things, is set up bezel correction, which is right over here on the right side of the Nvidia control panel. So right over here where I'm moving my mouse around. And I just happen to know somewhere around 90 is where I need to be, but this number will vary depending on your bezel size and whatnot. And you want to make sure these roads look like they meet. And for me, it's not going to look like they meet from your perspective because you're over my left shoulder, but you vary that number, and that number is probably going to be anywhere from 70 to 100, depending on the size of your bezels. And then when you're happy with the bezel correction, the roads look like they meet, you hit apply. Again, the screens will all flash. Now, you won't actually be using the bezel correction until you change to a bezel corrected resolution. So if you want to use the bezel correction, again, you must change to a bezel corrected resolution. So you hit under resolution, you choose the top one. Mine says 5940 by 1080. Yours will say something similar to that, but depending on the amount of bezel correction, your numbers will vary slightly. Again, I'm going to choose 5940 by 1080, and I'm going to hit apply again. So now we have changed to a bezel corrected resolution. So meaning that when I move the mouse, it looks like it goes behind this bezel. Instead of just instantly showing up on the other monitor, it actually kind of goes behind the bezel. In other words, the bezels become a part of the display. Kind of like in a plane, if you have a pillar coming down, that's a part of your field of view. So close this, we hit apply on the Nvidia control panel, and then we can close that. And if you right click on the desktop and go to display settings, you should notice that you now have one really wide monitor here. Instead of 3 separate boxes, you have a number 1 here, and it's a one really wide monitor again. And that's what X-Plane sees. It's like, wow, this guy's got a super wide monitor here. So now we're going to go ahead and open up X-Plane, in this case 11, but the setting we've got to go and change is exactly the same on 11 as it is on 10. And that's called the lateral field of view. By default, X-Plane sets up your lateral field of view to 60 degrees, excuse me. That's how many degrees wide your field of view is. So as you probably know, 180 would be exactly half of a circle. Well, by default, X-Plane sets it to 60 degrees, which is, of course, a third of a, let me think about that now. It's 1/6 of a circle, because you have 360 degrees total. So we want to bump that number up to 120 degrees, which is a really wide forward view. Alright, so I'm going to go into the graphics settings. And one thing you'll notice here under resolution, this is on version 11. We want to, well, version 11 and 10, we want to choose default monitor settings for the resolution. We do not want to use any specific resolution. In other words, we want it to match the desktop. And you notice here, when we go full screen, everything's just way too zoomed in. So we're going to go back to the settings and notice this lateral field of view here. This lateral field of view slider, it's set to 60. Well, I'm going to crank that up. Notice, if you can see in the background, you can see things changing. I'm going to go up to about 120 or so. I'm also going to turn on VSync. And then I'm going to hit done. Now notice that we have a nice wide field of view. And we can look all around if we want to. Now, if you have the Ultimate package and you have a bunch of instruments up here and iPads and such, then you probably want to change your view to forwards with scenery only, which is Control W. Again, Control W. But if you've just got, like what I have here, I just have I'm in the Volair cockpit, but I don't have any instruments up here in front of me, then you'll probably want to use your hat switch to kind of look all around as you're flying, and look down at your instruments, and you have to grab the mouse periodically if you need to make a change. So that's how you do it. In version 10 of X-Plane, if you're still running that, it's under Settings, and rendering options, that's where you will find the lateral field of view, and you'll again want to change that to about 120 degrees. You can play with that number a little bit, but you don't want to go too far below 120 or too far above it because things won't look quite right.